Hello and welcome to Upstack America's Oracle ABS Financials Functional Training. My name is Bob and I'm the lead senior consultant for Upstack America. And with me today I have Victor, who is also a senior consultant. And today we are handling accounts payables lesson 5. And Victor, please walk us through.
Thanks, Bob, for the introduction, and welcome everybody to this lesson today in our Oracle Financials Functional Training series. In this session, we are going to start our payable setup. In our previous sessions, we discussed a few topics which would help us understand how to do the payable setup. And with that, we are ready to begin the actual setup. So let's just take stock of what we have already learned about what we need to do for payable setups. We know that we need to create legal entities and operating units. The option to create operating units actually only becomes available to you once you have already created your legal entities. So we know we have already done this in our setup. So in this part, we only need to set up the operating units because we already have our legal entities defined in our Mascani setup. After creating our legal entities and operating units, we need to grant access to the operating units, which we do through responsibilities and profile options, which we are going to discuss. And then we grant those responsibilities to the user who can then now access the operating units. After that, in order to use our payables module, we need to configure some control options. And these are going to be split into three. We have financial options, we have payable options, and we also have payable system setups, and we are going to see what each involves. And then now we can open the first period in payable so that we can start doing invoices and payments. And then now we can configure other optional setups. Once we have these first four, we have a functioning payables module. And these others now are things that you set up per the client request. Of course, there are other things within these options that depend on the client, the project that you're working on, but you need to define them so that you can have a working payables module. So let's just take a look at what our setup is going to look like. On the general ledger module side, we already have our setup whereby we have a ledger, which is Mascani Group US ledger. Okay, so that we have already set up and we have the responsibilities for that. We have defined our legal entities. One is Mascani Developers and the other one is Mascani Property Managers. And we have associated them with this particular ledger. So when it comes to our operating units, we are going to have one operating unit for Mascani Developers, and then we are going to have another operating unit for Mascani Property Managers. Bad spelling there. But it's Mascani Property Managers. But remember, before we set up the operating units, we have to define a business group, because as we are going to see, when we are creating the operating unit, we are going to have to associate it with a business group. So we are going to have two business groups, one for Mascani Developers and the other for Mascani Property Managers, which basically means that these two companies have a different list of employees, okay? And we already talked about why we need to associate a business group with the operating unit, or we need to associate a operating unit with a business group because there are functions within payables which require employee information, and employee information is partitioned and stored within the business groups. So we're going to have two business groups, one for Maskani developers and the other for Maskani property manager. So this is the overall look of our setup that we are going to try and implement on our instance. So the first thing that we are going to do is to create a business group. Like we discussed, a business group is an organization that's configured within Oracle HR. So in order to create a business group, we need to assign ourselves a HR responsibility. The responsibility that we are going to use is this global HRMS manager responsibility that comes with Oracle. In an actual project, if the project involves using Oracle Human Resources, then this is something that would be done by the consultants who are working with the HR module. So you would ask them what the business groups are or how they are going to design them, and then they would do that. But if in the project or in that implementation there is no HR module being implemented, then this is something that you as a financial consultant will do. And we already talked about how we have a setup business group that comes seeded in the system. So if there's no need to create separate business groups, you can use that. But if the client is going to have separate like HR departments or something like that, then you will define the business groups as per the client's needs. So once we assign the responsibility, global HRMS manager, then we are going to go and define the business group. And the navigation to define the business group is this. So we go to work structures, then organization, then description, which is the organization screen where you define organizations. You can define any kind of organization using this screen. So let's head on straight to Oracle and get started. Okay. Let me log out and log in with the correct username. So the first step is to go and assign ourselves that global HRMS responsibility. So we first log in as system administrator, and then go to security, and user. Then look for your user. The one that I'm using is Bob Muiti. So I'm going to assign the global HRMS responsibility to this user. And here it is. And as you can see, it belongs to the Oracle Human Resources application. So select OK and save that. So once we select file and switch responsibility, then the global HRMS manager responsibility is going to appear. Okay. As you said, this is the navigation if you want to create a new business group, which is a kind of organization. So, and just to to emphasize, this is something that you only probably use in this part of the setup, setting up the business group. So this is not stuff that as a financial consultant that you are allowed to know, I mean, how to use all these options. So go to work structures, then organization, then description. And this is the screen that you see. So we want to define a new business group. So click on new here. So you put in the name here of the business group. So the first business group is going to be Maskani Developers. Okay. Location. We can use the location that we used when we were defining our legal entity. Actually, can't remember what it was. Let me see. I think we called it Miami or something. No. So let me first close this. And we can go to accounting. Let me log in as DL, and so that we can go and see our legal entities. Okay, so Maskani Developers legal entity. So this is the location that we used, 100 George Avenue. We could have given this location the name just Maskani Developers legal entity, but I believe we just gave it this name, so we're going to go and use this name, this address as the location for our business group. So go to work structures again, location, work structures, organization, then description. New, I want to create Maskani Developers. So there is the location, 100 George Avenue, which is just an address we came up with. So this top part or block is the header part. Okay, so down here, you still have to indicate the kind of organization you want to create. All right. So the kind of organization that we want to create is a business group. You can create other kinds of organization like legal entity or establishments or inventory organizations from this screen. So we have to save the header part first, then come down here, and you can see all these organizations that you can create. Okay, so what we want to create here is a business group. And then we have to enable it. So let's save our work there. Now, there are a couple of options that we have to define for the business group. If you click on these others, you will see all these options that you can define for the business group, which hold like this type of information, which is employee information and other related kind of information. You can see here that business group info is the only one that has this asterisk. So that's the only compulsory stuff that we have to fill in. This is a flex field. Okay, so if you click inside, then this is what comes up, and you have to fill out all this in order to create your business group. And this is information that tells the system how you're going to enter like information on the business group. Okay, so before we do that, let's look at the setup business group, which comes with Oracle, see what it looks like, and we're going to use that the same information in those fields to fill this up. Oracle actually recommends that you just model your business group according to the setup business groups that comes there, or if you're specifying a business group for a particular, like if it's for a particular country, it also has some seeded business groups for particular countries. So let's close this first. Come here and okay, I want to look for because we selected that, then it's forcing us to first go and fill out the information. See if I can. It's not letting me close. Just gonna quit this first. Oh, that won't work either. Okay, so I just minimized, and then now we can query setup business group. So for this setup business group, you can see here it is labeled as both a business group and as a HR organization. So we want to see what is used under the business group organization. Click on others, business group info, and you can see here it's filled up. So this is what the default business group comes with. That's the short name, employee number generation has been set as automatic and all this. So we really don't have to know like the purpose of all this. We just need to know these values so that we can go and fill them up in our own business group, because we are modeling our business group as per this setup business group. Okay. Okay. So now let's go and query again the Mascani that we created. We saved the header, so we should be able to bring it up. Has been disabled. So let's go to others, business group info. So we're going to give the name as Mascani. Mascani developers. Employee number generation, automatic. Applicant number generation should also be automatic. And this, I believe, was also automatic. For the grade flex field structure, I believe there is a flex field called grade flex field. This was also group or people. I think people group flex field. I think this was job. Job flex field. This was costing. Costing allocation flex field. And this was position. Position flex field. This was competence. Competence flex field. So those ones that you've seen there are others now that have been designed for this Vision demo installation, but these are the ones that come with seeded with the system Oracle. Legislation code should be US. Oh, United States. United States. Currency should be US dollar. I feel like there's something we put in wrong here. So let me cancel this first. Okay. Let's take a small break while I look that up. Then we're going to come back and fill in those details. All right. So I verified what we are supposed to fix. So let's go and fill this up again. Click inside here. So this is going to be Mascani developers. Employee generation should be auto. Applicants, they should also be auto. This is create flex field. This is people group. This should be job flex field. It should be costing allocation flex field. For competence flex field structure, it should be structure for business group 0, which refers to the setup business group. Legislation code should be United States. And currency is US dollar. So the yellow fields are the mandatory ones. So click OK and OK. Do you want to save these changes? Yes, we do. So we have created our business group for Maskani developers. So now we are going to create our the second business group for Maskani property managers. So click not there, but close this. Go to description again and create a new one, and we are going to call it Maskani property manager. I believe location was also 100 George Avenue. You can save that header part. Select for the organization classification. We also want to create a business group, which is right there. Enable it. Save. Then go to others and enter the business group information. Click inside this flex field and it will pop up with this field. The short name we want to give this is Maskani property. It does, which is not really a short name. Auto. People group. This should be job flex fields. Costing should be costing. Allocation, cost allocation, flex field. Position flex field for this, and this should be structure for business group O. Legislation code is also United States. And the currency is USD. Okay. Okay. Yes, we do. All right. So we have done this. We had to create the business group first because as we're going to see when we are creating the operating units, we are going to be asked to associate this business operating unit to a business group. So the business group will have had to exist before. Okay. So the next step is to create operating units. In Oracle Release 12, you can create operating units through the Accounting Setups Manager, but you can also create it through the organization screen that we've just used. This path is easier, and we are also familiar with this Accounting Setup Manager, so that's what we are going to use. So we're going to head on over there. We had already opened this, and we are looking at for our addresses, locations. Now I'm going to show you first a ledger which does not have legal entities defined. And if you look at all these options here, you don't see operating units option anywhere. Okay. So now let's look for our Maskani, which we know we have defined legal entities. So click on Maskani Group US Ledger. And now you see you have the option here of operating units, but status is they have not yet been set up. Okay. So click on this operating units update icon. Because we don't have an operating unit, you see no results found, then we have to add an operating unit. For these organizations, we have to give a different name. We already have an organization by the name of Maskani Developers, which happens to be a business group. So we are going to have to indicate that this is an operating unit. Okay. So we are creating two operating units, one for Maskani Developers and the other one for Maskani Property Managers. You can just say OU. Okay. We can do Maskani Developers OU as the short code. Now, as you can see, you have these required fields, which are to associate it with a business group and the default legal context. So for Maskani Developers, the business group we want to associate it with is Maskani Developers. So if we have not created them, then we will not have anything to pick there. Default legal context is basically the legal entity. It says default because, as we have said, remember we can have an operating unit that serves more than one legal entity, right? So this is the default, but you can set it up later so that it is processing or financial transactions for a different legal entity. So we want this to work for Maskani Developers. And you can apply or add another. So let's first apply, and then now let's add another operating unit. And this one is going to be Maskani Property Managers. for you. You can do this as npm for you. Select the business group. Sorry, put Maskani here and then go. So Maskani Property Managers, the business group, and the default legal context is also Maskani Property Management legal entity. So we've been saying property managers, but here it's property management, but it's fine. We know what we are talking about, but those are not errors you can afford to make in an actual implementation. So apply. So we have our two operating units, okay. Maskani Developers Operating Unit and Maskani Property Managers Operating Unit. And click on this complete button to finish. And now you can see the operating unit status has been ticked to green. Okay, so we have created our operating units, okay. Now we need to assign our operating units to responsibilities, which we also need to create. So we need to create two responsibilities, one which will be able to access the Maskani Property Developers Operating Unit, and the other one which will be able to access the Maskani Property Management Operating Unit. So we know how to create responsibilities, and we know this is how the relation is: an operating unit which you assign to an AP responsibility or AP responsibilities, which you then assign to a user or multiple users, okay? So let's go and define these responsibilities and assign them to our, then assign the operating units to them. So I'm going to switch responsibility to system admin. And we want to define a responsibility. So we are going to model this according to payables manager responsibility, which comes with the installation. So let's look at that responsibility and see what these options are: the data group, the menu options, and the request group. And we are going to model ours the same way as that responsibility. So let's query payables. Make our query more specific: payables manager. So this is the one that we want to model our responsibilities to. So this is going to be the menu group, which dictates the menu options that are available to the user who is assigned this responsibility. This is the data group. This is the request group, and they can run all payables reports. So these are the options that we are going to select for ours too. All right. So click on new. And the first responsibility, we are going to call it Maskani developers property, Maskani developers payables manager. Okay. Which application does this responsibility belong to? Payables. Responsibility key, we can copy the name. Maskani developers payables. I know this doesn't take as many characters as the top, so let's just leave it as Maskani developers payables, and the description is that. So the menu group was AP underscore, I believe, navigate. This one, first one. Okay. The data group was standard. Application is payables. Request group was all reports. All reports for payables, right there. And so that is our responsibility, and we can save. Okay, but remember, we want to create two responsibilities which we are going to assign to different operating units. So you can click on new here to create an all right, let's see whether this was saved. Okay, it's been saved, so that's good. And let's define a new one, which we are going to call a Maskani property managers payables manager. Application this belongs to is payables. We can't copy the responsibility. Yeah, so Maskani property managers. And you can copy the description from the responsibility name. We're going to have the same menu group, data group, and request group. So this was AP underscore navigate, the first one here. The data group was standard, and the application is payables. Request group was all reports, and this belongs to payables. And we can save. So there it is, Maskani property managers and Maskani developers payables manager. So both of them have been saved. So we also need to assign these responsibilities to our user. So the navigation is security, user, define, query our user, my user, you query your user. And assign those two responsibilities here. So we have Maskani developers, and then the other one is Maskani property managers. So we have assigned both of them, and we can save our work. So we have done this part and this part, and we have created this link, but we haven't yet associated our responsibilities to the operating unit. Remember how we did this in GL through profile options, right? So to assign operating units to our responsibilities, we also have to do this through profile options. Now, if we go, for instance, to one of those responsibilities, Maskani Developers Manager, you can see the menu options that we have. And for example, go to invoices, entry, then invoice batches. Okay, maybe it appears there's a operating unit that has been set at the site level, but if there was none, then we won't be able to enter any invoices. Okay. Let's say, for example, test one. So this is the operating unit that has been assigned at the site level. So that's why we are able to come to this page. But if nothing had been assigned for the operating unit, then we wouldn't be able to do this. Okay. So let's just close that. And let's go back to our slides. So I want us to talk about a couple of things, security profiles and profile options. So security profile and global security profile are access features. They are security features that you can create. And these are the features that you usually create or when you use when you want to use the multi-org feature, whereby you give a user access to multiple operating units. Okay. Remember, we said we usually assign an operating unit to a responsibility, then to a user, and that user is only able to see data secured or data contained in that operating unit. But you can have an instance whereby you want to have a user who can see different operating units. Okay. Now, what's the difference between security profile and global security profile? For security profile, you create this if you want to have a user accessing operating units that are associated with the same business group. Okay. So, for example, if we had both our operating units belonging to a single business group, then we could create a security profile, all right? Then using this profile option, this is not a profile option, these are the profile options, okay? So using this MO security profile option, we would go to that responsibility and then assign that security profile to that particular responsibility. Now that user will be able to see all the operating units that are created under this security profile. Global security profile, on the other hand, allows you to create a security profile whereby a user can access operating units across business groups. Okay, and what that means is that you can only have one global security profile for your installation, because now they're seeing for your installation of Oracle EBS applications, because now they are able to see operating units across business groups. So all the business groups in your installation, if you create a global security profile and then you assign it to that responsibility, then that person will be able to see all the operating units. Okay, so we can go and view this, the page where we create this tool, just for learning purposes. We're not going to be creating one. So this belongs to HR also. So we're going to log in as the global HRMS manager. And the navigation will be security, I believe, and then profile. So you see this page here, right? You create your security profile, all right, and then the business group. Okay, you create the business group, which is also the business group also has, now we said the business group is the highest level of classification. So under the business group, then you're going to have other organizations such as the operating unit. So if you create this security profile, you'll come here and you select some options such as security type. You have view all organizations, or you can have secure organizations by organization hierarchy or list. If you select this, then you come down here. You can create what we call an organization hierarchy. We're not going to go into too much details. We just want to learn the concept, because this profile option to affect the profile options that we can use for AP, although this is all under HR. And then now you're going to come and enter your operating units here. Okay, so you can, once you enter your organization hierarchy or list here, then you'll come and select various organizations. So if it's multiple operating units, then you'll put them here, and then you select include. All right, so that's for the security profile. What about global security profile? Should be somewhere here. So security. Okay. All right. So for the global security profile, security, then scroll down. There it is. I don't know why we can't see it on the screen, but you see the page is almost similar to security profile. Okay. But then you don't have the option for business group, which means that when you define this global security profile, then you're seeing organizations across business groups. Okay. All right. So we know what security profile and global security profile is. All right. Now let's come down to the profile options. We have these three profile options: security profile, default operating unit, and M operating unit. Okay. So what do you assign at the MO security profile? If you have a security profile, then you assign that security profile to this profile option. What that means is that whoever has that responsibility, because we are assigning these profile options at the responsibility level, right? Whoever has that responsibility will be able to see all the list of operating units defined under this security profile that we created. All right. So that's what MO security profile option does. So what about MO default operating unit? Now, because security profile has multiple operating units in it, it can have one or more. Okay. But if you have multiple, then that user might want to have an operating unit which they use more frequently than the others. They are able to see operating units, more than one operating unit, okay? But maybe they have one for which they use more frequently. So that they might want that one to be defaulting on their screens, on where operating unit usually shows. So you can select that particular default operating unit under this profile option. Okay. So that's the purpose of this MO default operating unit, to select a default operating unit if you have a security profile assigned. MO operating unit is used to assign just a single operating unit in the case where you don't have a security profile which has multiple operating units. Okay. So which means that if you assign a responsibility, a security profile containing multiple operating units, then you don't have to assign anything under the MO operating unit. You can put something for the default so that the screens can be defaulting to the frequently used operating unit, but you can ignore operating unit because they have already been defined under these first two profile options. So before we assigned our responsibility to these profile options, then that's what I wanted us to have an idea about. So we can go and assign these profile options to our responsibilities that we've just created. We need to log in as system admin. And then we go to profile. Okay, yeah, so profile system values. We want to do this at the responsibility level. So we are going to have Maskani Developers, payables manager. The profile option we are looking for is MO. Now, for our case, we are going to have just one operating unit, right, for each responsibility. So we don't have to use the security profile because we don't have a security profile. Although when you create a business group, a default security profile with the same name as the business group is created by the system, but there's no security options defined. You can just view all organizations. So we're not going to use that. We're just going to use the MO operating unit profile option. So we can put here MO operating wildcard. Let's see what it brings. I think we didn't put enough info. Operating unit. Let's just use MO and wildcard. See what we get. Okay. So as you can see here, we have all those profile options we've talked about: security profile, operating unit, and default operating unit. And as you can see, this one has been set at the site level. This security profile is probably the one whoever created this operating unit used as their business group, so it's created automatically, right? So what we want to do is assign our operating unit that we created at the responsibility level. So we stop seeing this and we start seeing the one we assign here, if you can remember the hierarchies. So ours is Mascani Developers Operating Unit. And we can save our work. We can then go to the second responsibility, which is property managers, and also assign the property manager operating unit. So there it is, Mascani Property Managers Operating Unit. You can save. So maybe we can do a quick test and see whether we'll be able to see anything for our responsibilities. Okay. Well, it's still showing. You probably need to log in and log out again for this to take effect. All right. So close this. So log out. Let's go to invoice batches. Two. What? Oh, it's just hanging. Okay, so we had a bit of an issue in accessing on operating units in payables forms, but so far we have done the correct thing, which is creating responsibilities, then assigning them to users, and we have already also assigned our operating units using the profile options. But we encountered a small problem. We are going to deal with that in the next lesson once I have completely taken care of it. So Bob, we can end the lesson there unless you have something to add.